hope you're doing well today. We are going to mess around in the G Major Pentatonic Scale, okay? So, first of all, why learn scales on the banjo? Scales can be really helpful for learning your fretboard notes. That is like the number one thing there. Learning the notes of your fretboard and becoming familiar with them. And also, in each scale that we're in, you learn the different notes of each scale, okay? And that's important when you're playing in different keys. The reason why I stick so far to showing you the G scale, like I showed you the G major scale and showed you a bunch of different things you can do inside of that. And now I'm doing the G Major Pentatonic Scale, and that is so that you're using the notes within your most common key that you're ever going to play in. So in the banjo, our most common keys are G, A, C, and D. Okay? So I'm working within the G scale for you. Okay, so pentatonic, in the pentatonic scale, there are 5 notes. Okay? Now, in our major scale, there are 7 notes. So we're taking away 2 notes. Okay? What we're removing is the 4th and the 7th note. So that leaves us with the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th note in the scale. Now, if you want to get into why why this is the way it is, you can look all that up. I don't want to make this tremendously long and technical, but those are the notes in your scale. So in our G scale, we have pentatonic scale. We have G, A, B. We skip the 4th, right? The 5th is D, and the 6th is E. Okay? So those are our 5 notes. G, A, B, D, E. Okay? Now, if you'll notice something interesting there, what are we tuned to? What are our notes? G, D, G, B, and D. If you were paying attention, all 5 of our strings, the notes are within our G major pentatonic scale. Okay? So we are tuned to G. I'm sure you already knew that, but I'm just trying to make sense of all this for you a little bit. Okay, so what I was playing there at the beginning is only the G major pentatonic scale. I just sort of made a little song out of the G major pentatonic scale. I do have tabs available for it if you want to learn it and practice it and play around with it. Information is down below for that. But so whenever we're doing any scale, we can find the notes all over the place on our fretboard. Okay, you understand that, I'm sure, at this point. So we start with our third. Let's just start with our 3rd string open because that's our G. Okay, there's G's all over the place, but that's where we're going to start. So G, A is our 2nd fret of our 3rd string. B, where's the B? Our 2nd string open, right? D, our 1st string open, and E, the 2nd fret of our 1st string. So I'll play through that again. G, A, B, D, E. Those are our 5 notes. All right? So, another way you can play that is the way I was playing it, okay? So since we're going to a B, the B note on the 3rd string is here at the 4th fret. And I know I'm already going to play the 2nd fret when I play that A, so why not just make it a little slide? Okay? That's how I'm sort of messing around inside of the scale. And I also do a lot of pull-offs. Now, I do also use an additional note, but it's still within my scale, and that's the G at the 5th fret. And that's just our G from the 5th string. But you see, that is one octave higher than the G string, than the G, the third string open. Okay, so so it's important that we learn our scales so that we can learn the notes of our fretboard and become free with them, you know? So realizing that all of our open strings also fall within this is neat as well, because anytime you strum, you're within the G major pentatonic scale. Anytime you strum anything open or play any open notes, and that makes it fun. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. So here's what I'm doing in my little song there. So that's just my G, A, B, D, E. So you hear that? I'm getting them in different spots. That's where I'm getting it. I'm getting it the fifth string of, or the fifth fret of the second string. I could play these things up, you know, up here too. That's the same thing I was playing. So I want you to realize, and a lot of newer players don't want to mess with this. It's sort of too much for them, I guess. And I was that way too. I didn't want to mess with scales at all. But you see, if you take the time and learn this, it's going to pay you dividends later. Really, any of the notes, if you play anything in the G major pentatonic scale, you're not going to have a bad note if you play one of those notes. You can make so many different things happen and go on there, and nothing will sound off. And that has to do with that fourth and seventh note being left out. But I hope that from this you'll take that to do scales, you don't have to do boring stuff like that. Okay, you don't have to. You can do a lot more with it and make it more fun. Wow, look at the way the sun just did that. Isn't that beautiful? Morning rays of the sun are glorious. Let's see. Let me move that a little bit so we can. But yeah. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time there, show you that scale, walk around in it a little bit. Again, I'll have the tabs for just some straight scales and some strumming. Stuff like that, and then I'll have this neat little where I've got the slides, and I'm using stuff up the neck, just a touch up the neck. I don't go far, but just up here, a little bit. And that's the fun thing about the G major pentatonic, is that I can play all these notes, and I can just play a single note. I don't have to worry about covering every note in order to not get a bad sound, because all my notes that are open are within the scale already. So that makes it a lot of fun to play around in. So I hope that this sort of inspires you to, number one, learn the scale, and number two, experiment within it and play around with it. You know, one thing we don't do a lot in banjo that they do in a lot of other instruments is improvise on the fly. And I'm not meaning this in a negative way at all, but if you go into a song and you don't know the melody notes, you should be able to play the chords, follow along, and play notes within those chords that sound pleasing, okay? You should be able to do that. And I don't think a lot of people spend time on this. I'm not meaning this in a negative way. I love the banjo. I play it all the time, you guys. I love the banjo. But just sort of coming from a little bit of guitar, improvisation within the scope of what you're doing, you know, within those chords, leads and licks and things, you should be able to do that. And being able to do that makes you freer and more, it's more fun. Because if you go to a jam and you don't know the song, you're kind of stuck, right? If you don't know the melody notes of the song, you either have to play chords, and a lot of times it'll just be, you know, straight chords, and that's kind of boring. Or you just sit there quietly if you don't know the song, right? Or you can kind of do something like that, a little chuck thing. But you see, if you'll learn stuff like this, the sun's getting me again. But you see, if you'll learn stuff like this and take the time to work on things like this, you'll find yourself free and being able to explore and do things while you're in a jam, okay? And you won't be afraid of it because you'll already know what's happening. And someone, the big guy, is telling me that it's time to end this video, so I'm going to do that. I hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. And before I go, I always want to remind you that Jesus loves you. Bye-bye, y'all.